How's it going? How was your day? So, recently, the final episode of Samurai Jack Season 5 has come out almost a week ago. And Samurai Jack, so Star Wars has been a part of my childhood. Samurai Jack, on the other hand, was a separate part. I had never actually watched the entire series through. I had seen many episodes, and I loved each and every one that I had seen, but I'd never actually seen every single episode. My brother and I, we had binge watched the seasons 1 through 4 recently, and I'm really happy that I did. And once I heard that season 5 was coming out, I could not have been more pumped. Well, not really whenever I heard, but more like whenever they showed the trailer. Like, I heard that Samurai Jack was coming, I was like, oh, hey, I can't wait. And then they showed that picture of his beard, and holy fuck. Well, anyways. Season 5 is... It's been 13 years since Season 4. But in terms of the story, it's been 50 years. And a side effect from time travel is Jack cannot age. So he's 50 years older in terms of, like, you know, the mind and experience, but in terms of, like, physicality, he's still just a 25-year-old man. And this season was off the chain. Episode 10 left me, like... Game of Thrones was my favorite TV show until Samurai Jack Season 5. No, that's my favorite TV show, and I doubt that Game of Thrones Season 7 will be able to top Samurai Jack Season 5. I am absolutely amazed with this episode season. And, my Samurai Jack had finally got a conclusion. And the ending is extremely bittersweet. Extremely. Now, before I can say any of that, let's give you some more concept, just in case, you know, you don't... Well, I mean, it's part of a review to give concept. So, Aku has destroyed all the time portals, leaving Jack no way home, and only one goal: survive as long as possible. Excuse me. And this happens every time. He had been fighting beetle drones, all different types of robots, and he had been handling them almost no problem. Until the Daughters of Aku show up. Now, the Daughters of Aku, in the first episode, it shows this giant, not really giant, but it's several time skips. Like, it shows them as babies, and then it shows them as little kids, and how beaten shit they were, and then teenagers, and then fully grown adults. And the Daughters of Aku, they worship Aku, obviously, and their goal is to fulfill Aku's destiny, or not really destiny, but their own, and do Aku proud by killing off Samurai Jack. And the first episode was a fantastic way to kick off the series for its final season. It was funny due to Scaramouche, which I loved Scaramouche. It was action-packed, it was intense, it was dramatic, and it set the tone for Season 5 perfectly. It's much darker than it ever was, and he hallucinates, I guess you call it the Death Knight himself. He hallucinates his parents as well as his entire tribe, just as pure dead people, basically trying to rise from the floor from what it seems like in a river. And he also hallucinates himself, his past self, basically Mad Jack. In episode 2, and in episode 1, it's everything but himself that he hallucinates. But episode 1 was a great kickoff to the series. Episode 2 was the most intense episode of basically any show that I'd ever seen in my life. It was scary. It was suspenseful. It showed Aku again with the new voice actor, Greg Baldwin, which, it's just like Genndy Tartakovsky said, you can't replace Mako 100%, or is it Mako? Anyway, you can't replace the original voice actor 100%, but you can get a good impression. And Greg Baldwin does a great Aku impression. And episode 2 starts off and it shows Aku and how he had been living for the past 50 years, just dealing with people trying to give fucking tributes. And he had been seeing a therapist, which I'm confused about. Was the therapist just himself, but like just a part of himself just shape-shifting, or was it an entirely different person? I think it was himself, but episode 2 starts off with Aku and then moves back on to Jack, and it shows how Jack is fighting off the daughters of Aku while also showing a parallel with a wolf fighting off different monsters. And Jack eventually, it turns from him fighting them to trying to run away. And he, after killing this massive beetle drone, he starts fighting the daughters of Aku. And once he starts to try to run away, he tries to hide in part of the shrapnel. I'd like to apologize for that. I heard a knock on the door. Anyways, where was I? Right. He destroyed that giant beetle drone, and after fighting the daughters of Aku and trying to run away, he tries to hide in a piece of the shrapnel of the giant beetle drone that he had just destroyed, and that's where he starts having his first conversation, at least the first one that we see. The first conversation with his past self. And it basically just showed how part of him just wants to die and just wants it all just to end. He just wants to rest. And for the most part, though, he just wants to survive, and he manages to resist what his past self, or not really resist, but just disagree with everything that his past self is saying. And he tries to run to a different point, and it shows a slow motion shot of him just trying to run, and he looks behind him, and it shows the daughters of Aku running after him, and they appear to be running faster. Now, eventually one thing leads to another. They come to this green tomb, or not really a green tomb, but a tomb with green fireflies, and that is where everything just goes down. And eventually Jack ends up trying to run away through this hall, and he ends up killing one of the daughters, which, mind you, at first he thought were just robots, and once he killed him, he realized she was a human, and he was shocked. And then moving on to episode 3, he had been impaled by that daughter, right in the lower stomach, and this is happening again. What was I saying? Fuck, what was I saying? Right. In that cave that he gets into, after being impaled, he pulls a knife out and then meets the wolf from the last episode, and then he eventually kills off the rest of the daughters of Aku, which is basically the highlight of this episode, and leaving Ashi alive. And Ashi, over the course of the next few episodes, Ashi becomes his friend and just abandons the whole Daughters of Aku thing. And eventually, this friendship turns into something greater in episode 8, which a lot of people say that episode 8 was the weakest episode. I don't really know which one is the weakest episode, but I don't think it was episode 8. I think it's because it was funny and heartwarming to me, I guess. My favorite episodes are episodes 2 and 3. But eventually it becomes greater than a friendship. And they both love each other, but they don't really reveal to each other. They don't really reveal to each other that they love each other until the finale, episode 10, which was absolutely heartbreaking to me, at least. So eventually, Ashi has Aku's powers because she's literally a daughter of Aku, and she uses Aku's powers to travel back in time, and Jack kills Aku in the past. And Jack and Ashi are about to get married, and then Ashi just falls over and says, "Without Aku, I would have never existed," and just disappears. And that was gut-wrenching. Like, I had a hard time watching that. And the whole series ends with just him with this ladybug on his hand, and he lets the ladybug go. And the ladybug, I believe, is supposed to represent Ashi. Not really just Ashi, but more like Ashi's love for him, and how sure he didn't want her to become just a memory, but she ended up becoming just a memory, you know? That's exactly what he didn't want, and I just said that. But from what it seems like instead of being sad over her death, at the very last, not really very last shot, but at the last few seconds of the episode, it seems that he changed from being sad over her death into being happy that he got to know her, and that his memory of Ashi is a happy memory, and he is now back to the past, and Jack and Ashi had both just saved the world from, you know, Aku's terror fucking shit. Well, I don't actually know very many cons, if I know any at all, to this entire season. This season blew me away. It blew me off the planet. It was amazing. It blew my mind. This is starting to sound sexual, but anyways. Samurai Jack, season 5. If I had to give this one a rating, this is just at least to me, a perfect 10 out of 10. Every single episode, I was super excited to see the next, and every episode, I always felt something that would get my energy going. Like what people say is the weakest episode, episode 8. Through their what felt like kind of a rushed romance, only because, you know, it's all into a 20-minute episode actually, which I'm fine with. It just felt cute. It just felt cute to watch how they just it appears as if they boned, that they got their fuck on. No, but anyways, how they ended up just bonding and just revealing to the audience that they're more than just friends. And they both really like each other. This season was phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. So, my final opinion on season 5. Check this shit out. It's fucking awesome. Check it out. If you really feel the need to, go ahead and watch seasons 1 through 4. You don't have to, but you can. But season 5, in my opinion, is by far the best season in Samurai Jack. And because of season 5, Samurai Jack is my new favorite TV show. And it's a bittersweet ending to a great it's a great ending to a great show, even though it's very bittersweet. Check this movie out. What the fuck? Check this show out. Anytime you can, any opportunity, any chance of even just 5 minutes. You have to watch 5 minutes of episodes each and every time. Doesn't matter. Just watch this season. Well, this felt like kind of a sloppy review to me. But that's my review. Bye-bye, everyone.